All right. We are here on my map, St. Colma du Mont, for a live stream. Welcome aboard. Let me make my geo current and render my landscape. And I'm going to start off by just showing you the map so far, because this is the first time really I'm showing this map to anyone. Well, not to anyone. Very few people have seen this. Yeah, here's the map. Let me make this full screen for you here. So it's 5x5 terrain, but you can see I have a 500-meter border marked out with this white cube. So the playable area is 4x4 kilometers. And I've already laid out all the roads, placed all the major buildings. Like I'm adding a few barns, sheds, whatnot here and there. But all the major buildings are added. I've painted in all the hedgerows, like some of them are not completely connected yet, as you can see here. And along most of the roads, I haven't done the hedgerows because some of them I'm going to keep hedgerows, some I might do walls, etc. So, and this is based off of the aerial photography from 1950 that I got from Project 44. So you can see everything lines up pretty much right where it should be, which is nice. So it should be a pretty good depiction of St. Colma du Mont. We have our railroad here. This is where some of the parachute regiments were, I think on June 8th, as they were getting ready to push into St. Colma du Mont. So yeah, we got pretty much all the basics laid out already, which is nice. And I've detailed pretty decent amount of area now. So we have this little town or village of Angoville here, which if anyone who plays Company of Heroes is watching, all too familiar with the map Angoville. Well, this is Angoville. Doesn't really look like the map, but there it is. There's going to be an artillery position here, which I haven't done yet. Which actually, I think I'll save that. I might save that for a tutorial or something. Got our little farmsteads. I'm trying to include these little personal vegetable gardens wherever I can. Lots of cattle and horse farming, so trying to make sure I've got these stalls out. Actually, why is this so high up in the air? That looks a bit more reasonable. Have these stalls with troughs and some of them with hay and whatnot. Gotta have gated fields. There was a wall here. Oops. I went through and deleted a bunch of splines that I didn't need anymore. I accidentally deleted this wall spline, so I'll have to remake that. Yeah, got a nice defensive position here overlooking this. And some grass that's not rendered. There we go. Try to really get like the claustrophobic road feeling here. So we come up to these farmsteads up here. More vegetable gardens within the farmstead, going out to fields. I'll have to fix this hedgerow. Maybe I'll just do that right now real quick. I'm doing all my hedgerows with a procedural volume. So anywhere where there's dirt B, it paints the hedgerow using the procedural volume. So if I don't want hedgerow, I just paint something that's not dirt B. Then next time I resimulate the foliage, it should not be there anymore. Got a little horse farm down here. Let me make this full screen again. Some more farmsteads. A nice little trench up here. Nice view over this area. But can still be flanked because of this hedgerow here. You got some sight blockers, which will help maneuver around the defensive position. Got a ditch along the road over here. I didn't paint enough of them yet, but there are gaps in the hedgerows that I'm painting for infantry to go through, because unlike most maps, infantry and vehicles cannot go through the hedgerows. It's possible infantry can sometimes find a little gap they can walk through, even if it visually might not look like it. So you can find little spots, but I am hand drawing in spots as well. I don't want you to have to walk half a kilometer just to get through a hedgerow. I don't think that would be very fun. So yeah, this is what I've got so far. It's a decent chunk of the map done. Still gonna do some further detailing with like some flowers in the grass and stuff. In the fields, some dead cows, craters, maybe more wagons and stuff. But right now I'm trying to get mostly the farmsteads done, because then the fields should be relatively quick to do. Nice little farmstead here. And that's pretty much what Normandy is. It's bocage with farmsteads. And that's what we got. The area I was working on yesterday is this area right here. This farmstead was the last thing I worked on. And a nice little barn here, and I gotta paint the grass away. So I think that's what I'll start with, painting the grass from underneath here. So I'm just going to draw a field. See, I have field selected here to get rid of all this grass peeking through the floor. Then I'll probably take some dirt out here, you know, show where they've been walking. I'll decrease this to 0.2 strength and kind of do some spots where the people and the livestock probably walk a lot going in and out of this barn. And my headset shut itself off because I'm not using it, it thinks. So I guess I'm sort of not. All right, got this ditch down here. I'm gonna paint some puddles in here eventually. I don't know if that's something I want to do right now. I think I want to work on the next couple farms right here. We're getting close to the edge of the map over here. Really, it's the last like POIs before the edge of the map sort of have this here that will be probably not even a farmstead, just a little house. I don't know. So we'll work on this area next. So when I'm doing these farmsteads, I try to like to think about what fields are kind of theirs, like what fields they work or what field primarily. So this one's a little weird because this field is dominated by this large farmstead. So what do these people have? Well, this is really just like a little barn, right? Someone probably doesn't live here. This is probably maybe these people's barn or something that they use. So maybe they just own this field, this little field here, something like that. And I like to think about that because I try to have things like this. Actually, I need to put a gate here, by the way. So let me do that next. I try to have gates going into the fields because if it's livestock, you kind of need to keep them penned in. So the gates need to be able to close. Like anywhere you have a major opening needs to be able to close. So I'm trying to do that throughout. There is no gate asset like this in the SDK. I just put a bunch of different fence and plank pieces together. But we can see now that they're grouped, the gizmo is kind of awkward. So I'm going to switch over to the world kind of. It's going to be relative to the world instead of relative to its own local space as I copy this over. And that was not good because I still have surface snapping on. So it tried to individually snap each piece of the fence. So let me turn that off. And I'm just going to bring this over. I could save this as a static mesh as part of my mod, rather than just keep it as a group of meshes. That would alleviate some of my issues. But I'm not going to do that. So when I place these gates, I like to place it as if it's closed first. And then, gotta find the right walls here. What's up, Van Gogh? So yeah, I try to place the gate closed so I can get the distance right. I'm going to use this wall here. I'm going to change back to local space. And just line this up. We're going to make that quite a bit shorter there. And then we'll Alt-click drag to copy, rotate that 180 degrees. Put that there. And then I did set this this fence up here to be fence no vehicle collision in the collision presets. So vehicles will not collide with this. So I could keep this closed. Infantry would have to hop over. Vehicles could still drive through. I think this one I'm going to have open. So I'm going to rotate that. And just plop it right there. Embriagela. I don't know how to say your name. Embriagela. I'm trying to remember who you are in Discord. Anyway, we've got our gate set up there. Now we could see they could close this gate to keep their livestock penned in. Well, once I finish the rest of these hedgerows and or walls. So we fixed that issue, and we'll continue working on this area here. So when I did this map, the last map I worked on was Brest, and it was a pain having grass peeking through everything. So I said, I'm going to solve that issue by making my base terrain this field texture instead of grass. That way, I only have to paint the grass around the buildings. Well, that may be a good idea for a city map, but when you're doing rural French countryside, I had to paint a lot of grass by hand, so maybe not the best idea there. PSI. Is that your name in Discord, Embriagala? I know I've seen the name before. I thought maybe it was just in here. Maybe I saw it on Discord. Either way, welcome to the stream. I'm just working on my map, St. Colma du Mont, right now. I did a little tour of the map so far when I first started up the stream. If you want to see that, you can go back and see what the map is about. But right now I'm just continuing to work on what I've been working on. So interesting that I have this little ditch here. So logically there needs to be a way to cross this ditch. And now I did have, where is it? This that I used earlier on the map. And I like this asset, so I'm gonna bring it over here. So I can reuse it. I might scale it down or something. I'm also gonna see if there are any other footbridges. Thing I don't really like about this footbridge. Oh, well, actually it's just huge, but I was gonna say the railings. I don't really think this is worthy of railings. So I just pressed the end key there to snap that to the ground. I'll probably need to still further adjust it. There are these nice little like wooden white arched bridges that are often used to cross things like these, but it doesn't really work for vehicles crossing. Oh, you guys are really hitting me with the difficult for Americans to pronounce names here. Let's see. La Barasque. Barasque. Yeah, I'm going to say La Barasque. How you doing? Let me know if I pronounced that right. So we'll put that here. I might scale this width down a little because I did feel like the other one seemed a little wide. And if I were to grab an Opel truck here, it can fit over that. And maybe I should size it more to a civilian truck. Or what's it called? Just truck. Yeah, it would be a bit of a tight squeeze, but I think that fits for the Normandy countryside. So now I've got that in place. I'm going to open up the landscape tool, get my spline tool, and I'm going to do a wall. So I always set my half width to 250 for the walls. There's really no particular reason. It's small enough to not, just this control point is small enough to not be like in my way as I'm working, but it's big enough where I'm not really trying to find it like these little ones here that I did for the ditch. So when I do these walls, there are this certain type of wall meshes that I like to use. I'm going to use this one that's probably the most used on the map. Let me just find it here. It's like this nice old looking wall. Just looks like an old Norman wall. Here we go. Old stone wall long. And I forgot to uncheck scale to width. Let me do that. And then the way I like to do these walls is first, I like to make sure that they go right into the hedgerow here. So I don't have to worry about making a nice end to it. And on this side, I'm probably going to make this just sink into the ground here. And if I press R while I have this control point selected, it'll like adjust the rotation to fit. So I'll do that. And I'm just going to sink this into the ground. I'm going to pull this back a little and also sink that partially. And then press R to adjust the rotation there. Maybe sink that a little bit more. All right. And then what I like to do is if you select segments, Control C, Control V, I've now pasted a spline right here, the exact type. So I'm going to delete the wall mesh from that one. And I have some numbers that I know work already. So the half width 50, side fall off 200, end fall off 100. And what I'm going to do with this is select the control points, and I'm going to raise this up and select the segments. And then by clicking the only selected here, it's going to raise the terrain to that spline. And we'll see how that looks next to the ditch. I think that's pretty nice. So that's one wall done. Well, for a non-French speaker, it's a good start. I'll take it. Flu, looks really interesting already what you are creating right now. Thanks. Yeah, this is, I did do a little overview of this when I first started the stream. Feel free to go back and watch that. But I'll just fly over real quick. I pretty much have this stuff, I would say 90% done. There's detail work that needs to be done through here. And then everything over there is just not done. I just did roads, hedgerows, and placed buildings. So I'm just going farmstead by farmstead right now. Thanks for the help on Discord, by the way, early. It's FNFL Sanglar. Managed to make the landscape work. Awesome. What was the issue? Was it they weren't in the same level or something was locked? I'm also, this spline down here was used to make this trench. I'm going to go ahead and delete that now since I don't need it anymore. I'm trying to go through and delete a bunch of these splines that were only used for landscape deformation, because when the map is completely done, they're not needed on the map anymore. They were just used to deform the terrain. And having a whole bunch of splines is really eating my performance. So I'm going to try to keep getting rid of splines as I don't need them. For example, this spline that I just used to deform the terrain, I don't need that. I still need the one with the wall, so I'm not going to delete that one, but I am going to delete the one that was used to deform the terrain. And there we go. I could probably delete these with the hedgerows, but maybe I'll show you guys how I'm doing my hedgerows first. But let me finish this wall real quick. So we're going to do another one of these. Again, I'm going to drop this to 250 just so that control point isn't obnoxiously large. And we're going to come down here. Oop. Yeah, it gets really bad performance when I'm in the spline editor mode when I have this many splines. And again, we're going to come to segments, add a spline mesh, uncheck scale to width, drag my mesh in there. And there we go. And again, I will have this wall. Oop, it's so hard to fly around when I'm in the spline mode. Sink that into the ground. I don't have to get that quite all the way into the ground if I don't really want to, because when I deform the terrain, it's going to raise the terrain up anyway. And then we're going to copy and paste this, delete the wall mesh from the copied version, set my numbers, and then select all the control points. And again, we're just gonna, actually, want to select the control point more over there because I want this to go straight up. And select segments, only selected. And perfect. So I'm going to delete this spline. I don't need it anymore. All right, I'm not sure if I'm entirely happy with how that entryway looks, but I'm not going to touch it right now. If I come back to it later and I still don't like it, maybe I'll fix it then. For now, I'll just leave it. One thing about doing the walls with the deformed terrain the way I do it, near the edge of the wall, sometimes this isn't as tall as I'd like it, the landscape underneath. So I'll just come in here with the sculpt tool. Usually I set this to a 200 radius. And I raise that up a little, maybe then smooth it a little. I'll probably have to do the same on this side. No, this side's good actually. So there we go. Now we've got that. The next thing I usually do is come in here and go to field, and I just paint where things are driving or walking. And I think this area is probably just for accessing their vehicles, and like maybe they've got a tractor in here. Maybe they've got some storage over here. So I'll probably draw something over here too, and I'll put some kind of storage over there. So, because I imagine these people own this plot of land, and this is where they're storing equipment or something. So I'll search shed. This game likes to call a lot of things sheds. So even if I want a barn or something, it's probably called a shed in here. I kind of like this one. Rotate this around. Maybe like that would be nice, and actually maybe a little closer to the wall here. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Then we'll just draw this back in. Maybe I won't connect that up, just have some dirt over here like they come out here and do stuff. There's a little door here. Let's make sure I connect that up. I think that's all the doors on this barn. Now I need to make sure there's no grass peeking through in here, so I need to paint the grass away. And there we go. I just do a little cutout here. Maybe they've got some boxes or something right there. All right, the next thing I like to do, let me switch that to 0.2. Let's see. Even though the geo was on always loaded, I had to click on make current, and then it allowed me to select the landscape. Okay. By the way, is it normal if on geo there are not any static meshes, only roads, landscape? Oh boy. If you have static meshes on your map and none of them are on the geo, so here, right now I have my geo as current. If I were to have my persistent level as current, anything I place down now goes right onto the persistent level, which is St. Como du Mont Offensive Random 01. It does not go on the geo. So if I placed this barn here, this barn is not on my geo. It's on the offensive layer right now. So that's why the very first thing I do when I open my map is switch geo to current. So anything I'm doing happens on the geo. Now, if I didn't have my geo as current and I was doing all this landscape painting and splines and stuff, the engine knows like that all this is part of the landscape, which is on the geo. So it'll either let you do it and it's still on the geo, or it just won't let you do it. It can't like put a spline on the geo or on the landscape that's not in the right level. So it'll either work the way you want it or it just won't work at all. But when it comes to placing static meshes, you need to make sure you have the right thing set to current. But what I will do right here, I'm just going to place some stuff. And this is all in the wrong level now. It's all on offensive random. So if I come to World Outliner, down here I can go to View Options, and I can do only in current level. And what I'm going to do when I do this is I'm looking for any static meshes that are in this level, because this is my current level. I do not want any static meshes here, so I'm going to select all of them. Then I'm going to go back to levels. I'm going to make my geo current. I'm going to go back to my World Outliner. I'm going to uncheck only in current level. I'm going to find where these things are selected, at least one of them. There's too many things. We'll do this a different way. We're going to go back, make this current, only in current level. We've got these selected. We're going to uncheck only in current level now. Will that work? Oh, I know what we can do. Hold on. Doesn't matter. We're going to make the geo current, and then here we're going to do only selected. This is going to show everything I have selected. And then we right click here and we can go to level, move selection to current level. So now since I just made my geo current, this is going to move all 4 of these things into my geo. And now they're in the geo. I don't know if you right click if it shows any of that. No. I just unselected it, but if I were to go now only in current level and I click on this, it does show. Whereas if I go and make this current, it's not showing because it's not in the current level. So that's how you fix that if you do mess it up. But you really want to try not to do that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and delete these. I'm going to switch my geo back to my current level. And we shall continue. Yeah, you want everything on your geo because you want to be able to reference this geo from Random Offensive 1, Random Offensive 2, Invasion 01, Frontline 01, and then hopefully one day PSRM. But if everything's not on your geo, you won't be able to reference your map across different gameplay levels. So sweet. Yeah, let me know if you have any troubles with that. And then, so right now my grass isn't rendering. So I did show this in the last tutorial, which is super helpful. If you open the console, do grass.flushCache, it re-renders your grass. What I used to do is come in here to landscape, and if I just paint something somewhere, it'll update. It's kind of cool that I don't have to do that anymore. So that's something I learned. So now what I do once I have the basic area painted, I like to come through, actually, I'm going to paint a little bit of dirt or field coming out this door here. That should be fine. I like to take my sculpt tool and just slightly raise the terrain wherever the grass is. So not where the field texture is, just where the grass is. This kind of makes everything feel more like stuff is actually like walking and driving on this part. You could alternatively lower this part instead, which is something that I did more on the breast map because I would throw some splines in here that had some text or like actual depth, not texture. But the reason I'm not doing that here is because on the dirt is where I'm really going to be placing all my boxes and wagons and crates and stuff. And it's just easier to place everything if it's on flat ground. So that's how we'll do it. So the first thing, these people, like I said, are probably storing equipment over here. So I'm going to put a tractor in this little barn. Plop that in there. Maybe they didn't park it perfectly straight. We got a tractor in there. They're keeping it nice and safe from the elements. Now, any wagons or things like that you want, the game calls them trailers. There are a few smaller wagons. If you search prop, they're just called farm props. Eventually, yeah, farmhouse prop. So there's things like plows and smaller wagons and carts and stuff, but they're not called wagons or carts. Anyway, I'm going to come back over to trailer. I'm going to say they've got a big trailer right here. Probably, maybe they have a few different trailers, right? And they pick up whichever trailer they need with their tractor. So I'm going to say they've got a big one and a small one there. This one looks more like would be for horses. So maybe they've got a horse too somewhere. That's what they'll use if they need their horse trailer. Come over to box. We'll place some boxes. Now, I used to hand place boxes, and I'd use things like this merged mesh occasionally, and then I'd put other boxes around it. I don't know if I just got lazy or what, but I use these pre-merged meshes all the time now, and very rarely will I add additional boxes to it. I think most players don't really notice and or don't really care, and you're going to save a whole lot of time. Sometimes I'll still, do it different, but for the most part, I am just using the pre-merged stuff and leaving it at that. But however you want to do that, that's up to you. Now, even though I have box searched, these barrels come up, which is actually really convenient because I'm usually using or wanting to place them under the same context. So it's actually really nice that that happens. Here you can see like the ground's not completely flat. In this case, I'm just going to sink it a little because it's a merged mesh. But let's say I was just placing a single box. What I could do is turn this surface snapping on. Then as I move it around, it'll align itself to the terrain the best it can. So maybe I'll just put a box here just to show that. There you go. So anytime you're placing something on uneven ground, that's kind of the best way to do it. I feel like this does not look good. I think I'm just going to get rid of that set of boxes. I think that's kind of what's messing it up. Maybe I'll just stick it under this overhang. They're keeping these goods dry under this overhang. Probably makes a little more sense that they'd put it here rather than just here randomly. That's another thing. So many of these things you put on your map, it's like, why would people just leave these barrels all the way out here? Like, in what context does that make sense? If it's something that they need to use, they'd probably keep it closer to where they need to use it, where they'd try to keep it dry or something. But it's nice to have obstacles to hide behind when you fight, so you kind of got to choose your battles there. And that's probably fine for over here. What I usually do next is come to my foliage tool. Now I've already added a bunch of foliage that I like using. I'm gonna add a nice big oak tree here, I think. And maybe a different kind of oak tree over here. I think that looks pretty nice. When I do my oak trees, I like to slightly sculpt the terrain around them, elevate them a little. I think it helps give the illusion that the roots are really around it and everything. Gonna want to smooth this part out. It's a little obnoxious. And then I like to paint my forest. I'm at 0.2 strength here. Just go around, and even if it's only here a little bit, you get all these leaves. Then maybe I'll do it a little stronger right at the base. Just get those leaves around here. Maybe I'll do a little darker around this one, so kind of a big tree. Yeah. And then I'll go back to my foliage tool. When I placed these oak trees, I was on single. Now I'm going to come up to this bush. It's like my favorite bush to use in the game. I use it over 5,000 times already, just drawing things. And with these bushes, I just like to accent edges. So kind of makes things pop a little. And use it on the sides of buildings, anything. It just kind of like defines your edges. Not sure if I want it on this tall wall here. Yeah, I'll put some right here. Why not? You do have to be careful if you paint too close to the wall. It will peek through the wall. I think I did an okay job not putting it. Oh, there's some peeking through the wall. So if that happens, you can use the lasso tool to select a bunch, but it's pretty wonky. So I usually just use the select tool. And yeah, I can't select anything. I don't know why it does that. You have to go back to select. Usually just select something and then go back to foliage. And now it's showing that it's selected. The lasso tool would also probably work now that I did that. Right, and there's a little farmstead done. And then we'll come do the next one. It's the good part with my map expansions. Took the geo and finished it, and only after implemented the layer. Yeah, exactly. It is a nice system that they developed for like organizing the levels. Like Unreal Engine is what does the levels, but their system that Periscope used to organize it all is nice. It's one of the few organizational things that they did well. So I've got some grass in the road, which is not ideal. Oop, that was supposed to be dirt. There we go. So this is something that I noticed a lot, like looking at Street View and Google Earth and stuff in Normandy. Like these doors wouldn't necessarily be facing the road. There's kind of like a driveway and like stuff parks back here where the doors are, and facing the road is not usually as much. Or like I did over here, like there are these like walled in kind of porch areas, and even some have cars parked in them, which I did do one of those so far. I don't know how they maneuver their car in such a tight area, but that's what they do according to Google Earth Street View. So yeah. So I'm gonna do a little driveway thing over here. I gotta sink this building down a bit. So what I did at some point, I placed all my buildings, realized I didn't like how the elevation of the map was, so then I redid all the elevation, but then a bunch of stuff was sunken into the ground or floating or whatever. So I picked everything up and hit end, so it snapped to the ground. But with buildings, that just snaps them so they're just touching the ground. It doesn't have it at the right height for all the doorways and stuff. So that's why I have to keep doing that with these buildings. And we'll just draw this to connect it. And then we'll think about how this connects to the field out there. Like, it's unlikely that, you know, if they're raising cattle or whatever, that the cattle are just allowed to walk right up to your front door. There's usually some kind of fence or wall or something. And most likely it's a hedgerow. So I probably will put a hedgerow here with another gate or something. So I can show you how I do my hedgerows. So it's going to be with the spline tool. And all I'm going to do is control click, place my spline, and I have these numbers that I know work well for hedgerows now that I've done this a few times. It's supposed to be 100. And I'm just going to draw where I want my hedgerow to be. And I think it's going to be pretty close to what I already have drawn here. I'm going to say these people don't have much of a yard per se, which is why they needed to utilize the storage across the road, because they just don't really have a lot of room here. At least that's my story for them. I think I will bring this down here. And I am going to make sure this flows right into here. And now I'm going to pick this whole thing up. I'm going to select all my control points, and I'm going to increase the elevate, or just raise it up in the air. Because if anyone's seen these hedgerows in Normandy, a big part of it is just that the ground leading up to the hedgerow is really tall. And like, a lot of my hedgerows don't even reflect that well enough, I think. So I'm going to come over to segments. In the layer name here, I'm going to put dirt B. That's one of my landscape material material functions, whatever it's called. One of my layers for my landscape. And that's what I have my procedural foliage volume set to detect. So whenever it detects dirt B, it paints a hedgerow. So I'm going to do dirt B, only selected. Now it raises the terrain and paints dirt B all in that area. I also want this hedgerow to connect. For this one, I think I'm just going to paint it manually because it's such a small area. So I'm going to do a 50 radius, get out dirt B, and just connect this up. And then I will sculpt it up. Ooh, that is strength 1. That is not what I want. And then we'll smooth this out. I feel like that's not really good dirt B right there. And then they're going to need some way to get in and access their field. So I will paint some field here where maybe there's a gate. We'll offset it a little right there. Hey, Bushwicks. More mapping. Yes. Gotta love the mapping. I'm going to come in here and just flatten this out since I don't want hedgerow there. And then we'll smooth. And that's going to create a gap in the hedgerow. So I'm going to show you quick. Let me save. I haven't saved in a while. St. Coma du Mont. Bushwicks, hopefully. You can tell me. Actually, I guess La Brasque can also tell me. How I'm doing representing the Normandy countryside here. How are you running so many projects? Well, I just have a lot of back burners and things get put on a back burner very often. But this one's I've been working on this pretty steadily for almost a month now. And then I started it back in March, but I then stopped working on it for a while. But yeah, so I'll show you my procedural foliage volume, PFE. So I have two different ones. I'm really only using one of them, the hedgerows with trees. Looks pretty decent so far. Big Merville vibe. Yeah. Well, I think what I'll do is I'm going to show the procedural volume real quick, and then maybe now that there's actually people here, I'll do another tour of the map. I did a tour of the map when no one was here, and now everyone's here. So, yeah, so you have different foliage in this folder, and then I have the procedural volume. I actually only have 4 foliage types in the volume, and yeah, the actual volume here doesn't tell you much. It just tells you what types of foliage you want to use for the most part. And then it's the actual foliage that has all your data. So somewhere in here. Yeah, in here I have it set to spawn on dirt B. And then everything else is like pretty much saying how it spawns and then how it spreads. It simulates like certain number of steps of life for the foliage, and you have an initial seed density and how much it spreads. Yeah. But anyway, the big thing is it spawns on dirt B. Yeah, I'm doing the hedgerows with procedural foliage volumes, which is a big reason why I wanted to make this map, because I'm like, wow, if I use procedural volumes for my hedgerows, I can do this map really quick. And that's been mostly true. It's definitely quicker than hand painting them all. So I've painted in that hedgerow spot, and if I come over here, type in procedural, I have different volumes. I have 9 different volumes, just kind of making a grid on the map. So this is the grid I'm working in now, where this volume covers. This is pretty atypical for how the volumes are normally used. Normally, you would put the volume over a certain area. Oh, excuse me. Over a certain area where you know you want like a forest or something. But I'm doing it a little different on this map since I have hedgerows everywhere. So I just cover the whole map with it. I tried doing one large volume and it crashed my SDK, so I broke it up into 9 grids. And then all I'm going to do here is hit resimulate. And it does take a little bit. Yeah, not the foliage tool, because I have this set up. Well, I mean, first, it's so much easier than just painting everything. But I also have it set up so infantry and vehicles cannot move through the hedgerows. It blocks you, because one of the foliage assets I have here, this one right here, it has collision to block pawns, but not projectiles or anything. So it's actually going to simulate that bocage feel where you can't just walk through all the bushes. You actually have to go around and find gaps in the hedgerow. So yeah, I think it should play pretty nice, at least once I add enough gaps in the hedgerows. And it's really simple. If I want a gap in the hedgerow, I just paint something. I paint field or whatever instead of dirt B. But yeah, usually I wouldn't update the whole volume just for this little area. I'd wait till I'm done with the whole chunk, then I'd update. But just want to show you guys what it looks like. Now we just play the waiting game. There we go. So now our hedgerows are generated. And apparently I wasn't painting field here. I must have still been painting dirt B by accident. Whoops. So actually what I can do here, instead of repainting field, just to show you, I can go to dirt B, use target value, and pick 0. And then I'm not necessarily painting field, I'm just specifically removing dirt B. So you can see here, like, I'm not painting anything, I'm just erasing any dirt B that's there. And then we'll have to re-simulate the foliage at some point. But I will show the map again now. So yeah, here's the whole map. Let me make it nice and big here. Here's the whole map. I have a 500-meter buffer set up with these cubes. So it's a 5x5 kilometer map, but it's 4x4 kilometer playable area, because there's a 500-meter buffer on all sides. And I've already placed all the roads and the hedgerows and the major buildings and whatnot. I've set up my flooded fields and stuff, which I'm going to have to be very careful about this. Like right here, it looks like this is probably a good height, but I don't want it so people are like laying down underneath the water. So You have to be very careful with that. I made a little dam here, but anyway. Now I understand why it takes so much time for map, 60 hours of work, 3,000 of waiting all the SDK stuff. Yeah, there is a lot of waiting on SDK. Aren't you using splat maps when importing the landscape? No, I do not do any of that. I hand sculpt, I hand paint, everything. I don't import any height maps or splat maps or anything. But what I do have is I have this decal here. Oops, did I only turn it off that way before? So this is what everything's based on. This is aerial photography from 1950. And you can see everything lines up like pretty much exact to the map here, which is pretty nice. I guess I missed 2 hedgerows here. Oh well. But yeah, so it lines up pretty nice with the decal, which is really nice. And then I have pretty much everything in this area 90% done. I have to do like detailing the fields, especially like dead cows, craters, more wagons and stuff in the fields. Probably like flowers in a lot of the grass area. But I'd say this is like 90% done, all this area. At least like all the major farmsteads are done. Is there a particular reason you're not directly importing the landscape with a height map? The biggest reason is when we were making our first map, I didn't know how to do it. So I just did it this way. And then when I was doing breast, I didn't want it to be 1-to-1. So I did it this way. So then when it was time to work on this, I was just like, I'm so used to doing it that way. I'm just gonna do it that way again. Yeah, I'm sure it would save a lot of time. I don't I don't know. I remember we tried it for Nijmegen once, but like I don't know if the data we had wasn't good or if our method was flawed, but it was like not a very good height map and it was very janky and we had to smooth things out and everything. So I have no idea if it's still like that. Like maybe it just comes in perfect. But yeah, it was more out of habit than anything. Yeah. Got little town of Angleville upon here. Some different farmsteads, some potato farms and whatnot. Nice little road coming up the hill here. Another farmstead up here. So it's really just a whole bunch of farms with a small town, a bigger town, another town up there. Have a nice trench system, or not system, just a little trench here, which is nice. Yeah, it's the map so far. So I have probably about 2 kilometers down done and maybe a kilometer across. So 2 square kilometers done out of 16. So we're getting there. But actually, I don't know if I can continue with this farmstead until I resimulate, because that is an issue. Oh, I forgot. You can't turn foliage off. You have to turn all the static meshes. Okay, so it looks like I at least got rid of all the dirt B there, so that's good. Yeah, we'll resimulate again. Can't wait to play it during Op 44. Oh yeah. I'm excited to just have a map with proper bocage. That's the main goal of the map. Can't just run through the bushes. Can't just drive through the bushes. Looks nice already anyway. How many hours in? God. I don't know how many hours. I started working on it at the beginning of March. I worked on it for like 2 or 3 weeks. Then I stopped because I was working on the Company of Heroes map. And then I started working on it again. I don't know, 2, 3 weeks ago. So maybe like 6 weeks-ish of total work so far. Yes, tanks are going to be very interesting. I'm really interested to see how it plays out because the roads are going to be more important than on most. Oh, OBS Studio reconnection successful. Oh boy. No more rushing around the cap with Sherman trough through multiple layers of bush. Yeah, you're gonna have to really think about how you're getting to the cap, and it's gonna be very difficult to maneuver. I I guess I can't show this right now because it's loading. I wonder if I open a browser here. See. I thought it was really cool when I was reading about this battle. Oh, sweet. Never mind, it just finished rendering. When I was reading about this battle, it was the 101st Airborne pushing in, and they sent like a regiment down that way, a regiment down this way, and a regiment down that way or something. And they were supposed to kind of have a front between the three regiments, but one regiment in the middle was having so much trouble moving through the bocage. They were supposed to like move through these fields through here, and they were having trouble just like actually moving through. And then whenever they'd move through, there'd be Germans on the other side waiting to kill them. So they ended up just following this road. They're like, screw going through the fields, we're going to follow the road. And I guess the roads weren't watched very well, and they were able to get like all the way up in there. But then the regiment over here was like left by itself because now the two regiments were bunched up over there. It was just like kind of cool to read about how the bocage like forced them, like it was easier for them to take the road, which you'd think would be pretty dangerous just because of the way the bocage was. And that's kind of what I want to like capture, is that kind of feeling on the map, is where the roads are going to be the easiest way to travel, but the defenders will probably know that and they'll be watching them. So yeah, but the bocage also enables a lot of different ways to flank, which is nice. So even if you pop out one field and there's a German MG on the other side, or if the Germans are attacking on whatever layer, you get the idea. You can hop over to this side of the hedgerow and flank it. And then it's going to be a lot of maneuvering, like, okay, we're watching this entrance, we have someone watching this entrance. Like, how do we defend this? How do we attack it? I think it should be pretty interesting. think smoke might also be pretty important on the map too. But anyway, we've got this, and now I will paint field and not dirt B. And I will not use target value of 0. All right. I think that's feeling pretty decent. We'll sculpt here. Just raise this stuff up a little bit. Wherever the grass is. Might have been a little too much. Oop, that's definitely too much. I thought I was on smooth. All right. And we'll place some boxes, as one does. Like at a, oops, little hand cart with some hay or something. Maybe that would be nice. Oh yeah, we'll put that right over here. Get some hay in there. And maybe they're taking it from in here. Maybe they got some hay stored in here. Keep it nice and dry. Why is that sunken down so far? Boom. Search for some farm props here. What is this little crane used for? Like, I feel like this would be on an elevated platform or something. I want to try to include that. East Asia wagon. Maybe a little grinding wheel in there, sure. Want something for out here, though. Yeah, why not? And then something for the livestock out in the field. Do something like this. Get a trough in there, some water for these cattle or goats or whatever. Probably not goats, probably cattle. So I read that Normandy is a big producer of cheese, and that's why they have so many cattle farms. They're producing cheese. Which I always wondered, like this bocage, like, I don't know, I just wondered a lot about bocage, and kind of makes sense now that it's so difficult to walk through because it's, I don't know if it was intended originally, but it is keeping cattle penned into fields. So I thought that was cool. I'm like, oh, that makes sense why it's so hard to walk through, because we don't want cattle walking out of the fields. So this asset, whenever I place it, floats above the ground slightly, which is annoying. So I always have to manually lower that. Maybe we'll put a box in here. Sure. Then we'll have to come through and paint some field down here again. The stream has a good Bob Ross vibe. Thanks. I'll take that. The heck? That's awesome. Burn Ross. There we go. And then I'm going to take my field on 0.2 strength and just draw it out from here. Show like maybe the most traveled paths of the cattle, maybe the people going to and from this area. And just kind of really draw those out into the field. Feels pretty good. I feel like I really want something else here, but honestly, probably doesn't need something else. Maybe something against the wall. And this I want, yeah, I want to have that L shape against the door there, so I have to mirror that. Yeah. I feel like there should be, like, why isn't this space used? Why wouldn't they use this space? Maybe there's a tree there. They can't use the space because of the tree. Ooh. Homeowners insurance might want them to take that tree down. I don't know. And then we'll just paint these bushes again as little accents on our grass areas. Maybe some around the tree this time. And we're going to sculpt around the tree slightly. And then paint some forest. Get those leaves. I might edit the landscape slightly to not have these rocks form with forest, because I'm not really doing any actual forests on the map. So I don't really need things like those rocks. Could be fun to have some kind of a double stream while mapping our respective maps. I've been struggling to get back at Brazino Crossing lately. Would maybe help. I'd be down for that. I think sorry, I was just thinking about your map. I really want to see more of your map. I thought your swampy lowland areas you showed on the one stream looked so good. I was so impressed with that area. And I know you also have a little bit more knowledge, maybe a lot more knowledge about customizing the landscape materials and stuff. I could definitely learn from. I don't think I need to do a whole lot of customizing for this map anyway, but for example, removing those rocks from the grass layer, you probably just know how to do that. I'd have to look at it and figure it out, so that would be cool. That would indeed be cool. So I'm just going to connect up this hedgerow here. Paint in some dirt B. The dirt B looks very, very similar to field, which is partially why I chose it, but in hindsight, it doesn't really matter that they look the same because it's all underneath the hedgerow anyway. Sure, environmental art is quite a rabbit hole to dive into, but it's not. But it's mandatory when you're mapping different biomes than what we already have in vanilla. Yeah, true. It's not like you could just use a landscape that we already had for chapter red. Yeah, what you guys have looks really good for sure. You have to do it all from scratch, from the landscape materials to LGTs, foliage, etc. PFEs also, of course. Yeah, actually, the PFEs, I only really learned how to do it because Whitman showed me. Yeah, the grass type would be nice. Like I don't want to say it what you're doing, but I love what you're doing for Orsha with the grass type. I don't know if you want me to say it, so I won't say it, but I think that's a fantastic idea. Something that if I ever go back to Nijmegen, which I probably won't do, but if I did, I would definitely use that method for the destroyed parts. Yeah, send me a DM. I'm working on this almost every morning anyway. Morning Eastern US time. I usually don't start as early as I did today, but I'm not working this week. I'm off of work this week, so I went to bed earlier than usual yesterday since I wasn't at work till late. Yeah, exactly. The rubble and debris. I think that's a great idea. Like the most I use it for things that aren't foliage, which I actually haven't remembered to use it in a while, are these planks. I love painting these planks with foliage, which is actually something I learned from uh shoot, what was his name? McDuck Sauce, when he first released the Longue Sumer map as a mod. I was looking around and I'm like, oh, these planks, like that's such a good idea. He told me, he's like, yeah, I did that with the foliage tool. I'm like, ah, that's really smart. We'll get an autosave in here. Yeah, I feel like there's probably a lot of things that the LGTs can be used for that are maybe underutilized or just not utilized at all. All right, got our autosave in. I'll also do a real save. If you notice, my landscape is called St. Coma du Mont Geo Auto 5. Well, autosaved autosave saved the day because I was saving my map just like I am right now one day, and my cat went under my desk, started rolling around, and unplugged my computer while I was saving and completely corrupted the file. Luckily, the autosaves save completely separately, so I was able to restore an autosave. But that, oh my god, I was ready to just give up on the map. I'm like, well, that was a good run. It's not happening now because I was not going to start from scratch. Like I really shouldn't be spending so much time mapping to begin with there, because there's a lot of other stuff to work on. But yeah, luckily I was able to get that autosave. So I have my autosaves set to not autosave as often, and I used to sometimes cancel the autosave and just save manually. I never do that anymore. I let the autosave happen. Autosaves are my friend. Yeah. I don't know where to go now. Should I go here? I guess I'll go here, then I'll go there. I'll do this little farm area. Ooh, it's an interesting shed I put there. With LGTs alone, it reaches its limits pretty fast, but PFEs can take the relay from there. If you manage to conjugate both, I believe you can save a lot of time instead of hand placing everything. Yeah. Yeah, I think, man, if I was doing a destroyed area again, definitely procedural foliage would be such a big help. I like, I mean, procedural foliage, I was considering, like, do I even do that for my fields? Like, I don't think I'm going to, but I could just have it place like dead cows and stuff and whatnot. But I guess that's part of the problem, really. Besides dead cows, what do we have in the SDK that can just be foliage placed in a field? Like craters would need some landscape sculpting, wagons and stuff. Uh, would be weird to do with procedural. Are there many map assets that were built extra for PSRM? No, there's like nothing. Um, yeah, PSRM, like when we have never. I guess Sarge was like the most consistent 3D modeler we had, but most of what we do in PSRM is coding. I said to someone the other day, the biggest thing PSRM does is coding. The second biggest thing PSRM has ever done is collaborate with other modders because that's really mostly what we do. We code things and we collaborate with other modders who actually model and animate things. And it's kind of a good point. Like I was saying the other day, I don't remember who I was talking to, but um, like Periscope Games, I think just had so much opportunity to collaborate with modders, and I think we've all heard that there were potentially some laws involved that made it difficult, but I mean, as far as I know, they never even really reached out to people. But for me, as soon as I saw a new map or a new mod, I would subscribe to it on the workshop. I'd load it up and I'd see what it was all about. And if it was a map that seemed like it was good in a good state, or if it was another mod that had something interesting, I'd reach out right away and say, "Hey, I just checked out your mod. It looks awesome. Would you be interested in having it represented in PSRM?" And I feel like that just a little bit of effort, if Periscope did that, maybe we could have had more of this stuff in the game. But again, maybe the laws really were a huge barrier. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's mostly what we do in PSR, and we just code and collaborate. Like if I do static mesh here, I don't know why probably a lot of our static meshes are probably stuff that's no longer packaged in game that we had to copy over, but also like the ambulance stuff is stuff Internodo did. AVRE is Internodo stuff. Drillkirk broken. I don't know what that's used for. Is that it? Hello? Reference viewer? Yeah, it's not even used by anything. I don't know. Oh. Oh. When I was working on destructible assets, that's what it was. Yeah, we've got all the foxholes and stuff. I don't know why I have a horse glider. It's not used by anything. But yeah, we really don't have much. This again, I was working on destructible buildings years and years ago. But yeah, we really don't have. Oh, the Jeep stuff. Sarge made the stuff for the Jeep. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything in here besides what Sarge made that's actually PSRM. Trains, but that was a purchased asset. That was purchased by Chrismo, and then he let us use it. Yeah, so like nothing. Nothing. Anyway, there's PSRM files. I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know if I should show that on stream, but I don't know. Like, if it really matters. It's not like we're hiding anything. That's precisely what helped save the game prior to 2023. We won't ever thank you and Chris enough for that. Well, thank you. Um, Honestly, it was our pleasure. Like, we did this because we like to. Um, but no, I do appreciate the thanks. Even though we like doing it, it was still a lot of work. This is gonna be a weird intersection. Not really thrilled about doing this one. All right, well, that wasn't so bad. And it wasn't just me and Crescent, by the way. Especially early on, Sarge was a huge part of it. And then many other people contributed. I mean, definitely Sarge, Crescent, and I were the major ones, but we were certainly not the only ones. Just gonna render my landscape here so I can, that color being off is not making me happy. There we go. All right, so another farmstead. What are we gonna do with this one? I think I'm gonna do another little porch here. I'm not gonna search for the wall. I'm just gonna copy and paste the wall. This is one of my favorite things that I discovered looking around Street View of Normandy are just these little like walled in cobblestone front porch areas. I don't really know what they're, maybe, is that what a veranda is? Veranda, isn't that a French word? Like, is this a veranda? Oh, I gotta detail this, by the way. Is that what a veranda is? I don't know. My grandpa, my dad's dad, was stationed in France after World War II. He didn't fight in World War II. He joined like 1950 or something like that, and he was stationed in World War II, or stationed in France. And he always called his front porch a veranda. I don't know if that's because he was stationed in France or if that was for some other reason. Okay, maybe either I'm saying it wrong. Oh, veranda. Okay, yeah, there it is. Yeah. I was, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but yeah, I have no idea what a veranda actually is. I just know my grandpa used to call his porch a veranda. I don't know if that literally just means porch or if this is like a certain type of porch. I don't know. It's like a portion of the house full of glass. Oh, front especially or place in the garden. Okay, well, that is not what my grandpa's porch looked like. I guess it could have been enclosed in glass, but it wasn't. And this is certainly not enclosed in glass. Am I like, do you know what I'm talking about though? Like with these things in Normandy? Here, let's look. Veranda is basically a glass covered extension of the house, like a bright outdoor indoor space, kind of like when you can see. Okay, so that's what we would call like a sunroom. Okay, well, at least now I know what a veranda is. Ooh, um, I think it was like up in this area where I was seeing some of this stuff. Let me see. Just crazy, by the way, that we can do this. Here we go. This kind of thing is just like, this is one where they actually have their car in. But like these little just walled off portions in front of the house. It's got some nice trimmed bushes instead. Yeah, like this. Does that have a specific name, this type of thing? I don't know, because I love it. I think it's so cool, and I'm trying to incorporate that on the map a lot. I think adults are responsible for their kids. That's what I'm getting from that. Yeah, like this type of thing. It's just so cool. Like these are everywhere in this area. What's this? Are you remaking Nijmegen? No, no, not remaking Nijmegen. At least not yet. But no, I don't think I can ever justify spending the time to go back to that. But it would be cool if that map was finished. I just think, I don't know. It would be nice, but I really shouldn't. I'll leave it at that. I have other things I should be doing. I mean, I shouldn't be doing this either, to be fair. So, oh, a courtyard where you park your car and gravel at the front. Okay, I guess I could see that being called a courtyard. But yeah, like that kind of thing. It's like this walled in area in front of the house, and sometimes people are putting their cars there. It looks like, obviously. Yeah. Okay, I guess it's just a courtyard. Suppose I could have figured that out. I think we'll continue with this kind of wall over here. So I try not to use splines too much. So here we're going to make a wall that needs to curve without a spline. And it never really makes me super happy to do this, but splines are supposed to be not great for performance. Where would the entrance to this thing be? I feel like an entrance right here would be cool. It'd be chaotic though. That kind of intersection. I gotta fix this as well. If there'd be an entrance like here. Oh yeah, maybe I'll do that. Just leave a blank spot there. We'll have that. We'll have that. I'm not too worried about these connections here, how these corners meet, because I'm just going to put these pillars there to hide it. Otherwise, it's too much of a pain. Sometimes with these walls, I have to turn off the 5-degree snapping, but I try not to, mostly because I'm stubborn. I guess there's really no good reason. And then it'll probably run into a hedgerow over here. I'll probably put a hedgerow here. Nice wall here. I think this will be a nice little area to look at. Fun for fighting. Can set up on this wall. Yeah. Should be good. Too many floating roads to be fixed. SCL. SCL. That is Scott? Trying to think where I know SCL from. I think that's Scott. And you would bring up Nijmegen, so it's got to be Scott. Yeah, too many floating everything thanks to your Phil. Is Phil still around? That guy was a character. All right, thanks, Bushwicks. I'll see you. Yeah, let me know about mapping together. Vinny Vango, how hard is it to do underground stuff like cellars or bunkers? Well, it used to be really hard until, I don't know if it's when we upgraded to Unreal 4.27 or when exactly it happened, but now you can just paint the landscape invisible and it like makes a hole in the landscape. And now it's pretty easy to do that stuff. Like back when we did Nijmegen, that was not a possibility. And you had to get a lot more creative to do that kind of thing. And you could really only do it with certain meshes that were kind of built for it. The hardest thing about doing anything like underground is wherever the transition occurs is making sure that none of the terrain is peeking out where it shouldn't be, because you can only edit the terrain in such a fine space. Like you can only get so small, and sometimes the assets you have to work with that don't, like, they don't work well with, what am I trying to say? Like the assets are also small, so you have to try to cover an area, because maybe I make a hole here and the smallest like square might be like, can I how do I do this? Like it might be like that big, right? That might be the smallest hole I can make, but that might not line up with what I have covering it. So yeah, that's like the hardest part, but it's not super hard. You just gotta be patient, and it's a little tedious. Yeah, so I'll have a hedgerow come down here. I think I'm gonna have a hedgerow this way as well. So I'll probably continue this wall just a tiny bit. Yeah, then the hedge can come right up to here. I don't like how Scott isn't identifying himself. Or maybe, am I like Discord doxing by saying that SCL is Scott? Is that a thing? Okay, I like how this is turning out. I like the two entrances, this little wall here. This is nice. I think I'm gonna fix this now. Fix the height here slightly. There we go. Probably would have made more sense for me to just lower the spline a little in those areas. That's fine. How much time / work does it take you to add PSRM layer on a custom map, if I can call it like that? Like 20 minutes maybe. Well, honestly, the biggest part about adding a PSRM layer is just waiting for everything to load. But pretty much I would just copy a PSRM layer, like PSRM breast, or PSRM best is usually what I use, not breast. PSRM best, I would just copy it over, delete the best geo, rename the map to PSRM whatever, and then put your geo in and then set up the lighting level. So I'd make a copy of the lighting level. If assuming your map is based on a real place, I'd put the longitude and latitude into the lighting system and put a date into the lighting system. The default date is usually just a date that fighting happened there. Yeah, so maybe like 20 minutes of actual work, and then maybe like a total of maybe 45 minutes if you include waiting for things to load. What map is this out of curiosity? Nijmegen. This is not Nijmegen. This is St. Colma du Mont. It's a map I'm working on, obviously. Let me save. I'll give a quick rundown for you, Crowley. Yeah, so St. Colma du Mont. There it is. And then this is the historic area it's based on. I've got all the roads and hedgerows and buildings placed for the most part, so you can see everything lines up, which is nice. And that's as far as I'm like basing it on the decal. I guess I didn't put hedgerows there for some reason, but I'll probably just fill that in however I want. Pretty much everything I'm doing now, I'm not referencing the decal at all. I've used the reference as much as I'm going to. Everything else now is just my own creative license. But yeah, I have probably like 2 square kilometers done so far, or mostly done. I still have to do finer details in the fields, like cows and craters and wagons and flowers and stuff. But yeah, got a bunch of different farms done. I keep meaning to put a wall here and I keep forgetting. Do I just finally put the wall here, or do I say, screw it, it's going to be a hedgerow? I think I'm going to leave it for future me. Very cool. One of the 101st Airborne battles in Normandy. Yeah. So this will connect St. Mary du Mont and Carentan. So St. Mary du Mont's up there. Carentan's down here. This is where is it? This is the railroad that goes into Carentan. And it's not too far away. Actually, I still have Google Earth open. Oop, just ruined it. So yeah, St. Colma du Mont, and then my map ends right about here. That's this here. And then I have a cube covering this right now, but there would be that bridge there. Yeah, so that's that here. So that's where my map ends. And then Carentan is right here. So it's pretty much leads right into Carentan. And then St. Mary du Mont is right up here. My map ends. This is like the last major point of interest. My map ends probably over here. And then the St. Coma du Mont map, or St. Mary du Mont map ends somewhere around here. Never a bad thing to get more Normandy map variety. Nice work. Thanks. Yeah, I think, oh, and also St. Mary Eglise is right up here. So it's kind of like all in here. Yeah, I wanted to do this because I was working on Brest one day and I was doing some hedgerows and I made a procedural volume to do the hedgerows. And I was joking around with Whitman. I'm like, wow, I could do a whole Normandy map in a matter of months with doing foliage or doing procedural foliage hedgerows. And then shortly after that, Project 44 added all of their aerial photography for France. And then when both those things happened like one after the other, I was like, well, dang, I gotta actually do this now. Because if you come in here, or even I'll start out here because it's just so impressive. You can turn on this historic, this is all like 1950s aerial photography for all of France. And it's like using Google Earth in a time capsule. So if we go to June 8th, it's June 7th we can start with. Nope, June 8th. Yeah, June 8th. Here we can see St. Coma du Mont. This is what my decal was based off of. And just to have like this kind of reference with procedural volumes to do it all, it's pretty nice. Like here you can see the area I was just working on over here. Yeah, right here. And like this bend in this farm here, right there. So yeah, I guess, oops. I added this. This must have been built after 1950. Oops. Oh well. But yeah, pretty nice to have that reference. And then the big thing is I'm trying to really capture the bocage feel, so these hedgerows could not be passed through by infantry or vehicles. So you have to find gaps in the hedge to get through, which I'm going to go through and paint a lot more gaps in the hedgerows, so it's not running for half a kilometer to find a spot through the hedgerow, but it will be a significant obstacle still. So yeah. This is cool. This hedgerow here. Gonna add a new hedgerow. I'm actually going to delete some splines here that I don't really need anymore. Help my performance a little. Looks like a combat mission map from above. I'd say you're getting the right vibe. Thanks. Actually, that's what Wilson said. Wilson said it looked like a combat mission map. Um, which I'll take that. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, definitely I'd say feels like Normandy to me. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I've never been to Normandy, but I have used Google Earth, and that's like the same thing. Now we're just going to add this hedgerow along the road. And I think this is going to be a pretty long hedgerow, and I'm going to make this one pretty close to the road. I think I'm also going to make this a really tall hedgerow. I might go back and make a lot of my hedgerows across the map taller. It's one thing I'm noticing, like the more I look at the area in real life, like these hedgerows, like just like a huge mound of dirt before you even get to the bottom of the actual bushes in the hedgerow. Apparently, that is a big part of why tanks had such a hard time getting through it, because it wasn't like just plant matter, it was earth too, just blocking them. I think I'll go down a little bit more here. Starting to get close to the flooded area. I almost wish this area wasn't flooded at the time. I'm still debating, like, should I just not have it flooded? I don't know. I think it would be nicer for me to map if it wasn't flooded. But it, like, if I can make the flooded part fun to fight over, then I think that would be ideal. I just think that's going to be a pretty big challenge. But I'll try. Seems like a nice big hedgerow there. I like it. And I'll just delete that spline right away. I don't really need that. Maybe have the flooded areas partially traversable, similar to what Utah has. Yes, they will be. They're gonna be like fully traversable. So you can see like it's the grass is still peeking through. So it's gonna be a lot like what Utah has. I mean, the flooded areas on Utah aren't exactly the most fun areas to fight in either, you know. So but I'm gonna try to get creative. Make it fun and realistic. We'll see what I can do. Because I don't want like event creators to just look at that as like dead space on the map. But even if that is what happens, it's not like like I mean, it's a pretty big part of the map, but it's still plenty of other map to play on. I don't know. We'll have to see. Honestly, if it's just like really bad, I will just unflood it and then just do what I want. So I think it's more important for it to be fun to play on over there than to be accurately flooded. All right, so I think that'll be a nice hedgerow there. As for the bocage height, slap a Sherman or Panzer IV next to it and scale as you see fit. Most images show the bocage being a good third higher than the tanks. It's a good idea. I think it should already be pretty close to that, but let's see if I have a static mesh Sherman. I got a Firefly, that'll work. Yeah, so that's like the same height with this level of height on the dirt. So yeah, I can definitely go higher, which is nice. That's definitely still getting the job done. Can't see over it. Maybe the commander peeking out could partially see over it. Not really. Barely. Maybe. Are the bushes physic for shells? No, shells and projectiles should be able to pass through. I have it set so it only blocks pawns. Let's see, I don't remember if I set it here or if it was in the actual foliage. That's set to block all. That's not ideal. What's this set to? Okay, custom. Yeah, I have this set to only block pawns and toad. So it'll be player pawn, vehicle pawn. Oh, and vehicle. Okay, yeah. So I guess I should validate that projectiles don't get stuck by this, because this, I mean, I could just, you know what? Why don't I just change it now just to make sure? And I want to block pawn. I want to block vehicle. I want to block toad. There, should fix that. I don't know if it was, like, I don't know if these collision presets override what's in the mesh, but now it shouldn't matter either way. Because yeah, these little branches are what give the bush the hedgerow collision. Like, the rest of these bushes don't actually have collision. It's just these little things, and that's what's stopping you from moving through. So when you modify the collision for a mesh, you need to do a copy of the mesh in the map folder for it to work. Yes, because anything you modify that's not in, like, when you publish your mod, it publishes anything in your mod folder. Anything not in your mod folder is not getting published with your mod. So if you edit something, a vanilla asset, and you publish your mod, that vanilla asset you edited is not getting packaged with your mod. You're still going to reference that vanilla asset, except it's referencing the actual vanilla asset in the game, not whatever you edited it to, because everyone else's game, and even your game for that matter, outside of the SDK, doesn't know that you changed that object. So anything you change needs to go into your mod folder. I also was talking with my hands there, even though you can't see my hands. No problem. Then do we want to close off this farmstead with a hedgerow or a wall? I think a hedgerow, because these are going to be really long sight lines with no hedgerows there. I guess the elevation will stop it a bit. My Italian spirit is coming out. It's because you're here. You're rubbing off on me. So we'll do another hedgerow here. I like making these hedgerows pretty close to the road because I just like that claustrophobic feeling that it gives, which is a feeling that I get a lot looking at the area in Street View. Just feels very claustrophobic. Like these roads on this map are actually wider than they should be because I didn't think it would be very fun if you were constantly having traffic jams on the road and already like you're gonna have to squeeze by each other. So I felt like this was a good width for the roads. Yeah, we'll put that all the way up here, I think. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice road. It's gonna feel very claustrophobic. And then we'll do a hedgerow around the farm. We'll bring this in and then kick it back out. Get some nice shapes in here. Ooh, that's not a nice shape. That's an ugly shape. So, ooh, that's a little bit better. Yeah. Let's make this nice and tall. Did I fix this side? I did not. And we will do a dirt B. Raise that up. Yeah. We'll give it a save, and then I'm going to resimulate the foliage, get those hedgerows to appear, save again, and then I think I'm going to play an editor, run around, make sure everything I added feels good, and probably going to call it there. I am pretty hungry. I think it's time for breakfast. So we will come over to the procedural volume, resimulate, let that cook for a couple minutes. I just saw your meme in PSRM, Embrigala. Embry. Oh my god, Embrya Gala. Embrya Gala. Is that like, is that an actual name? Like, are people named that? That's like crazy if I have to pronounce that every time I refer to someone. Embrya Gala. Embrya Gala. Wow. Will you make other mapping live streams in the future? By the way, thanks again. I've been able to learn a lot from your stream. Probably. I think one thing I've kind of been struggling with when I'm mapping is I'll like open YouTube while I'm mapping and then I get really distracted. Doing it this way, I've been able to stay focused a lot better because I don't have any distractions open. Um, Oh my God, you even have a screenshot of what I was working on in that meme. That is such a good meme. But yeah, I think I will do it's your real nickname. That's crazy. So people call you Embria Gala, like, or do they call you like Embry or M? I would just call you M. What's up, M? I might do that. I might just call you M. So I don't have to pronounce that. That's great. Embria Gala. Embriagala. That's 5. It means drunk man in a funny way, my dad. That is kind of funny because it's like I was just counting. It's 5 syllables, and it's how you refer to a drunk person. And if you try to say that when you're drunk, it does not sound easy. 5 syllables. No one should have a 5 syllable name. That's terrible. I'm not trying to make fun of your name. I'm not saying your name is terrible. Just 5 syllables to pronounce every time is terrible. Your memes are not terrible though. That's a good meme. It's quality. All right, hedgerows popped in. We've got hedgerows. They really are 2 different things. Well, now it sounds like we're getting technical. Not really one name. Sure. Maybe I'll just call you Drunk Man. Drunk Man. 2 syllables. Easy. All right. We are saved. We are resimulated. We are saved again. Let's play and run around. Let's see how we did. See if we broke anything. And once again, we play the waiting game. fine for me. I'm from Veneto, and I'm fine with being drunk in the good way. All right. Veneto. Now that's a good name, Veneto. Oh, wait. Embry, tell me, is PSI free for the 10th? Oh, okay. That is not for me. Wow. Stream bringing people together. You guys are going on a date. Oh, not going on a date. Rejected. Rejected. You just got stood up. I guess getting stood up is when they don't show up. Sad day. It is very sad. Just for that, I hope we get a raining weather when we play. It'll be perfect. Ah, the consolation. We'll fight together this Thursday. What a story. This is romance drama right here. Nicholas Sparks could never write something this good. Oh boy, we are loading. Oh, forgot my headset shut itself off, so I can't hear the game audio. There we go. Let's see. Let's do all kits available. We'll take a machine gun. Make sure we can bipod on things. Alright, here's the new stuff. I gotta like repaint a bunch, like there should be grass here. Less like sandy dirt over here. That's something I'll have to do. Ooh, what I do want to try, see if the projectiles thing works. I should be able to throw a grenade through these bushes. So let's see. Why can't I throw a grenade at all? Okay, I can fire a machine gun. Oh, there we go. Okay. So hopefully that went through. Alright. But if I try to go through, I can't. Alright, so that's working. That is good. Wait, oh, whoa. It's looking even better in game. Is the light different when you play? Yeah, so random offensive, you can set it up, and it is set up this way on every map, so that you have different lightings, and it randomly chooses one of your lightings when it launches. So it chose this like sunrise. I didn't make these, by the way. I just stole these from St. Mary du Mont. But yeah, it just randomly chooses. So it chose this like sunrise one. So I could bipod on this wall. That's good. And also hide behind it. I like to grab the MG to make sure I can bipod on things. This wall is a little tall, but that's okay. It's a wall you can hide behind, so it's not a wall you can bipod on. I did this last night, like before I went to bed, so I didn't get to test this part out yet. So I'm running around here. I think this part's going to be really cool. You come out here and then down there you have the next farmstead wall. Can you jump across the bush as infantry? No! So dumb on some of the vanilla maps. You can just like hop up there. But no. Cannot vault on top. You are just stuck. Sometimes you can find a gap that you can run through. Okay, there, I found one. And those are kind of random, which I'm fine with. Like, if you can randomly find one. And then I do hand draw some gaps, like this one. And I need to make sure I have enough of those hand drawn. And then, once, like, the map is done, I'll also go through and add craters, and maybe some, like, craters blew up part of the hedgerow or something. So I'll have stuff like that, too. Now we'll come over here to farmstead we did today. We got our oak tree. Wagon. It's a weird bipod. There we go. Our little horse stall things. Alright, feeling pretty good. Ooh, can you get on this roof? I do need to be mindful of, I mean, unfortunately, like, those French buildings, like the one in front of me, you can, like, always get on those roofs. Because sight lines could get a little oppressive here, but oh well, we'll leave it. We got our ditch. Then here I would like definitely draw a gap in the hedgerow somewhere along here so you can get in from this ditch. Oh wait, there already is one. Ooh, so this is something that I have to like, once the map is done, I have to go through and make sure there's nothing like this. These twigs are what give these hedgerows collision. And then these just spawn in weird where I can jump on them, but they're still blocking collision. So I need to make sure there's no instances of that. Yeah, this is feeling like a decently claustrophobic road here between the wall and the hedgerow, so that's nice. And then I just want to make sure this wall on this one we didn't finish. I should be able to bipod on that while standing. Perfect. that. Let me make sure it's good when I'm not on the road. Oh yeah. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. I don't know how often I'll do this. I don't know. Whenever you see it, I guess I'll do it. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday too, or maybe, I don't know, whatever. I'll see ya next time I see you, I guess. So thanks for watching. I'm glad I was able to help some of you with some questions. Yeah, next time I will post that I'm live again, so you can tune in. If you have any questions in the meantime about anything, feel free to DM me, and I'll try to show you next time I'm live streaming, and or in the next tutorial video I do. Yeah, that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you later.